afraid, but I don't break. I heard you question my stability. You think I'll fall just like a guillotine, but I am here to stay. Won't look away. The storm is coming, so you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. I'm coming for the throne. For the throne. So you wanna be my enemy? You should've known I'd never kiss the rain. Ice runs in my veins, won't play it safe. I don't belong with your nobility. Who died and made you king of anything? You think that I'm insane? It's your mistake. Kingdoms rise and fall. I've come to take it all. I'll take it. I've come to take it. Kingdoms rise and fall. I've come to take it all. So you better start running. No, you can't control, feel it in my bones. I'm coming for the, coming for the. I'm coming for the throne.
Bitcoin came out, 23 years ago now. And since then, cryptocurrency has been nothing if not very dramatic. And the drama continues. And today we're going to talk through the most recent, I don't know what to call it yet, because I've purposefully kept myself ignorant for this show. But we have an expert, and we're going to talk through it. So let's get going. He has a plan, she has a plan, and you get to pay for it regardless.
The best way to get someone motivated is to stand for something strongly, deeply, passionately.
Subscribe to Disenthrall. Do as you're told.
Welcome to the show. You've never been on Disenthrall before. You've been on Anarchast multiple times, right? But welcome to Disenthrall for the first time. Good to have you, King.
Yeah, I think I've been on Disenthrall years ago, at least once. Pretty sure.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
King is the founder and CEO of Float, a social network, which you might have heard about if you follow this channel at all. So it's good to have him on here. He's been involved in crypto for many years now. I think that might be a good place to start to sort of establish you as somewhat of a subject matter expert here. Can you give us like a little bit of your background in the crypto space, and then maybe we can dive in?
Yeah, I started following Bitcoin back in on the Ron Paul forums, and at the time, when I first looked into it, I just thought it was another kind of digital fiat scheme. I saw it go from $20 fall down to $2. And I was like, okay, well, that experiment's over. And then actually one of my friends, in 2012, he ended up getting some VC backing for a Bitcoin exchange in New York. I was like, oh, this is interesting. Now, actually, it's not just like Ron Paul people and libertarians looking into this. There's some smart money coming into it. Not that Ron Paul people weren't smart, or libertarians aren't, or anarchists or whatever. But then I started looking into it, and I got it. I kind of did the rabbit hole, or fell down the rabbit hole in 2012. Ended up saying, okay, well, I'm going to stop focusing on politics and focus on this, because I feel that it's still the best way to the fastest path to more peace and prosperity, and an actual contender against the Fed as far as free money is concerned. So I started. I founded a company then that was the first skill-based esports platform where people can play against each other in popular video games for Bitcoin. We supported games like Counter-Strike, Team Fortress 2, Minecraft. And then that ended up getting acquired in 2012. And I've just been in the space for a long time. We just launched the first token out of Bermuda in 2017. Did I say we got acquired in 2012? I meant 2017. And then I did some consulting for companies like Consensus and a bunch of others. And the most recent thing is getting it with Float. So excited to be here. And you called me an expert as far as I feel like I'm very knowledgeable when it comes to crypto. When it comes to being an expert with what's going on with FTX, man, there's just so much going on. But I have been following it very closely on crypto Twitter, and it's been interesting. It's my wife said that it's my Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial for me. Because she was following that closely, which I thought that was a pretty good description.
I understand that. Mine was the Rittenhouse trial. I think I watched every single second of that whole thing. It was quite a thing. Alfredo in the comments says, "Are you saying he's an authority on crypto?" Yeah, well, that's funny. All right, yes. So guys, sometimes Odysee, when you start the stream, Odysee doesn't refresh to show the stream once it started. So when we hit the start time, sometimes you just got to refresh the page. These new startups, they have issues that you got to kind of be patient with and refresh the page sometimes. It's how it works.
We don't have all these billions of dollars, not yet.
That is for real. Okay, cool. So, I know that we're talking about actually, I don't even know. What's the name of the company? Give us the lay of the land as it was before all this went down, and give us a good starting point. What's going on?
Yeah, it was really interesting because FTX for me, so I've been in the space now. This is my third bear market, been in for almost 10 years. And they kind of came out of nowhere. And I had thought this for last, since the start of early last year, where did, Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, they just kind of popped out of nowhere and all became this huge rising star. But so I guess Sam Bankman, he started getting into crypto, I think in 2017. I think FTX was formally created in 2019. FTX is a crypto exchange, a centralized exchange. So you always want to be wary of that.
I'm just grabbing some photos while you talk. So that's Sam. He's the CEO of FTX.
Correct.
Okay.
And one of the co-founder. And they kind of took over the space. I mean, it was really crazy to see just this meteoric rise with Sam Bankman and FTX. They ended up investing in, I think it seems hundreds of companies in the space. Ended up they have the FTX Stadium. I think that's in Miami, if I remember correctly.
FTX was an exchange, Coinbase competitor,
correct.
Or what was it? Okay.
Yeah, I would say more like a Binance competitor.
Okay.
But a centralized exchange, right? So a bunch of tokens were traded there. There's a lot of liquidity there. I think it was the top 5, top 3 exchanges in the world. So they had billions of dollars under assets, and they also had 2 tokens: the FTT token, which is their exchange token, and then they were also one of the founders. As far as I understand it, of Solana, so these were, big tokens. I mean, top, billions of dollars as far as market cap concerned. And they had a huge ecosystems behind them.
A couple people are accusing him of being a Fed, saying that he was a World Economic Forum partner.
Yeah. So we can get in kind of to the more they were a World Economic Forum partner. There is some stuff in terms of, I know actually from personal experience, one of my friends was helping run a campaign in Washington, And he was just telling me that the FTX guys were throwing just tons of cash behind one of their opposing candidates. So it was like hard for them to compete. So apparently I think they threw, I'm not sure if it was through FTX, or I think it was through Sam Bankman personally, but apparently it's as much as $40 million to the Democrats, the Democratic parties, and all these campaigns. And I think Biden he got like specifically, I think $5 million for his campaign from Sam Bankman. So yeah, there's a lot to still uncover as the cookie crumbles, but it's been definitely an interesting week following this.
In terms of size, where do they rank, or where did they rank? They probably don't rank anymore, but in terms of size compared to I assume Coinbase is largest, or is Binance number one? Who's number 1, 2, and 3? You know,
I believe Binance is. I can check right now, but they were, I believe, number 3.
Okay.
So yeah, Binance is number 1, Coinbase number 2, and I believe that they were number 3 to 5 at any given time.
Yeah, honestly, like after speaking of, I have a clip from the past that I'm going to play. Hold on, here it is.
I'm Roger Ver, longtime Bitcoin advocate and investor. Today I'm at the Mt. Gox World Headquarters in Tokyo, Japan. I had a nice chat with Mt. Gox CEO Mark Karpeles about their current situation. He showed me multiple bank statements as well as letters from banks and lawyers. I'm sure that all the current withdrawal problems at Mt. Gox are being caused by the traditional banking system, not because of a lack of liquidity at Mt. Gox. The traditional banking partners that Mt. Gox needs to work with are not able to keep up with the demands of the growing Bitcoin economy. The dozens of people that make up the Mt. Gox team are hard at work establishing additional banking partners that eventually will make dealing with Mt. Gox easier for all their customers around the world. For now, I hope everyone will continue working on Bitcoin projects that will help make the world a better place.
Oh, come on. Why do you have to throw my man Roger Ver under the bus? But yeah, I do remember that. It looked like he was like under duress. It looked like he was getting pulled over by cops or something.
It did look a little forced, didn't it? It looked contractually obligated.
Yeah, I remember that.
So yeah,
and then
go ahead.
I
was just gonna say, like, that's when I stopped caring about central exchanges that much. Like, the Mt. Gox thing happened. It became obvious that if we don't possess our own private keys, then we don't possess the money or the crypto. And so ever since then, I hold my own crypto and I don't care about this stuff. And is this a situation where, that again, is it just a bunch of people trusting a centralized exchange with their crypto? Well, I guess I'm jumping way ahead, right? So let's actually
it is, go through it. Though, yeah.
Okay.
So I guess really this could have all started with the Terra Luna crash in May. Apparently, and this is still speculation, still things being uncovered, but apparently there were some things. So FTX also had another arm. One of their investments was Alameda Research, which is basically their quantitative hedge fund. So I think they were really just like front running trades on FTX, which happens always today in the traditional finance world. But I guess Alameda maybe had gotten caught up in obviously the bear market and what happened with Terra Luna, and apparently what is being uncovered is that Sam Bankman had some special privileges on the platform, and apparently he's actually a very good hacker as well, and a decent developer. So he made these special privileges, and they were doing some fractional reserve banking, and apparently he shifted like billions of dollars of funds that were supposed to be customer custody to the hedge fund that was run apparently by his girlfriend Caroline, and yeah, there's obviously like a bunch of issues there, and he didn't disclose this. Fast forward to more recent, I guess I'm just looking at kind of a timeline that Cointelegraph.com provides. They have a pretty decent timeline if you're not looking to kind of dive in deep on crypto Twitter. But so November 2nd, reports claim SBF, who Sam Bankman-Fried founded company, held significant amounts of FTT, which is their exchange token. So people were saying that they a lot of the reserves that FTX had, because they were doing fractional reserve banking, which people didn't realize at the time, but they were actually holding it in their own token, which is, very speculative and not something you should do. You should obviously have like one-to-one reserves when it comes to your customer funds on your exchange. So they had a bunch of their own tokens that they were basically showing on their balance sheet. And then
I think we've blown way past a lot of people. I want to keep this friendly for the layman. Okay, we had a dude who's running an exchange, which is kind of like a bank. It's just a bank that holds crypto for people and then lets them swap that crypto in between the different types of crypto. And they had their own type of crypto that was just for FTX, right? And then he had another company, which was a mutual fund, which is just like an investment vehicle. That's a fancy way of saying
hedge fund. Yeah.
You give them money, they invest that money, and then you hopefully collect dividends on the investments that they make in that fund.
Right.
And the crypto market tanked, 6 months ago now? It's been a while. It's been down for a while, right? How long?
Yeah. Bitcoin topped at when it popped above 67,000 again. I think that was in, what was that? August or July, or maybe even I think it was maybe July or August. So it's been a while since we've been in this bear market,
which stressed every crypto-based company in the market. Like when the prices
it always
tank,
does.
When the prices divide by 4 or something, or whatever they topped out as, that stresses everybody, as you would imagine. Same thing would happen if the stock market suddenly dropped by like if you divided the stock market valuation by 4, that would mess up a lot of things, right? And
it's basically a depression or recession in the crypto market.
Yeah. And it should also be noted before I go any further that everything you hear in the show that you have heard and will hear, opinions, don't sue us. All right. So this FTX CEO that also owned the hedge fund, I guess the hedge fund got stressed because of the recession, the crypto recession. And so he did use some funds, moved some funds, floated some funds from the exchange company over into the hedge fund company, right?
Yeah. And again, these were like customer funds, not like, profits or reserves of their own or the treasury. Like these were apparently customer funds.
So it would be like if you had Chase Bank and you put a bunch of money in your checking account at Chase Bank, it would be like if Chase secretly took some of your money and then invested it in one of their other companies to save the other company, or to back up or brace, or I guess, maybe to save the other company, let's say, without telling
still showing you. Yeah, with still showing your account balance. I mean, basically, trying to do the whole fractional reserve thing.
Yeah, so when you log into your Chase account, you still see your appropriate balance that you expect that they have for you, but the truth is they don't actually have that anymore. And unlike fiat and the central banks, where they can just quietly, summon more money into existence whenever they need to cover that stuff, or fractionally reserve back up their balances. Crypto is crypto, and the whole point of crypto is that it is sort of verifiable in that way. Like you can't just at least on the main networks like Bitcoin and things like that, you can't just fiat up some new currency when you're too big to fail or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's a problem with centralized exchanges, because they can kind of hide these things.
Yep. Okay, so I'm fixing my microphone cable here. So what's next? Where are we?
Okay, so then, so this is like when this happened, most people, they were like, starting to question it. It became a headline, but still everyone was like, oh, it's FTX, it's Sam Bankman-Fried. He's, multi-billionaire. He had a net worth at the time of over 16 billion himself. FTX was worth, multiple billions. So, okay, this is strange, but no red flag, but not at the end of the world yet. Then on November 5th, trackers picked up significant FTT movement, which again is their token, to Binance. So there's this on Twitter. There's this account called Whale Alert that found that there was $584 million being transferred from an unknown wallet to a Binance wallet. So this kind of was like, okay, well, whoa, what's going on here? Whenever there's like a significant move like that, people like to see that as like, oh, people are moving money off the exchanges. So that means that maybe, they're putting in the cold storage. That kind of is typically a bullish signal. When money's moved onto exchanges, it seems like they're probably going to try to sell it into something else. So that was a big red flag right there. And I guess that was 17% of the FTT circulating supply.
So they moved their FTT circulating supply out of their own exchange and wallets into Binance, a competing exchange. That seems like a pretty big red flag for sure. Like why?
Yeah.
Is there any legitimate reasons to do that aren't sus?
I don't know. I wonder if they thought that they can like get away with it easier for doing it that way, or if maybe there's just some issues with trying to move that amount of money on their own exchange. I'm not really sure. And maybe they knew, kind of what was going on with their own exchange, so they didn't want to hold it on there because maybe there was still ways for customers to access their money or something. I'm not quite sure yet. Those are things that are still being unraveled. On November 6th, Alameda CEO, the hedge fund again, Carolyn Ellison, who's actually, we can get into this, but apparently her father taught at MIT or had some sort of position at MIT. And what's the SEC chairman again? Gary, what's his last name? Whatever, the SEC chairman was actually, I guess, her father was actually the SEC chair, current SEC chair. Gensler, was the current SEC chairman's boss at the time. So there's some stuff that we can cover there in regards to the possible SEC connection. But they explained, they came out and said like, oh, hey, this whole balance sheet thing is not that big of a deal. It said that the balance sheet breaks out this is a tweet from Caroline, breaks out a few of our biggest long positions. We obviously have hedges that aren't listed. Given the tightening in the crypto credit space this year, we've returned most of our loans by now. So it's trying to instill faith with the community. And I guess they had other assets that were over $10 billion that aren't reflected here. Mm. So still people were starting to question Alameda at this time, some red flags for FTX, but hey, okay. But things were still somewhat transparent, I would say. Or it was making headlines, but people weren't freaking out as much as they are now. Then the next day, Binance moves to liquidate FTT holdings. Binance had, I guess, a bunch of FTT, and they were looking to liquidate all of their holdings because of these things that were happening. So Binance CEO CZ said his exchange would liquidate its entire FTT holdings, citing recent revelations that have come to light, believed to be in reference to the Alameda balance sheet. He said that they held $2.1 billion in FTT token, and they were looking to divest it. So let's see here. This is a quote or a tweet from CZ. As part of Binance's exit from FTX equity last year, and there was starting to be like some little like competitive things going on. Binance is number one. CZ, also the Binance CEO, he seems very smart, but he seems like he wants to be the top dog of this world. But he said, as part of Binance exit from FTX equity last year, Binance received roughly 2.1 billion USD equivalent in cash. Due to recent revelations come light, we've decided to liquidate. So that was pretty big, especially for FTT holders, for FTX itself. Obviously, if they're holding a lot of their FTT tokens on their balance sheets, this is going to affect their balance sheet because of this huge liquidation that Binance is talking about. And people speculate that maybe it was a strategy of CZ, of Binance, to put this out there in the ether, in the Twitter world, so that there would be a lot of selling pressure on FTT token, so that Binance would remain number one. Then that same day, the hedge fund Alameda, Caroline, the CEO, offers to buy Binance's FTT holdings over the counter, OTC. So not doing it on an exchange, doing it just in person, or somewhat in person, but so that it doesn't get reflected on exchange and wouldn't affect the price as much. So she tweeted to CZ, if you're looking to minimize the market impact of your FTT sales, Alameda will happily buy it all from you at $22. Now, the price today.
This is his girlfriend, right? Like,
this is Sam Bankman's girlfriend.
Yeah. Okay.
And so they were saying that they said that they're willing to buy it at $22. And remember, this was only this is November 6th, so about a week ago. And now the FTT token is at 137. So it's down, quite a bit. I'm surprised that it's even now, honestly, holding this level. It still has a $181 million market cap, but apparently it's because a lot of the FTT tokens are liquid right now. Okay. Any questions there? Or
I think the only thing that's worth noting or pointing out in this case is that the general public is able to have direct, immediate monitoring and insight on these large corporations' wallets because these cryptocurrencies are not private. Like
absolutely,
like
and a lot of,
for example, which
absolutely,
sorry,
and a lot. I was going to say a lot of people are waking up to this fact, and I think that's a really good point because I thought this through quite a bit, and I do believe that there is reasons, especially for maybe organizations, governments, companies to have some sort of public blockchain to prove things to investors, to customers. But I do believe that the future is for more private blockchains like Monero, potentially Zcash, and many others. And a lot of people on crypto Twitter are, now that they're able to track all these transactions going back and forth, they're like, oh, wow, hey, we can do this to these people. People can do that to us, and it could be used for nefarious reasons. So that's one good thing that's coming out of it. There's a couple of good things, but that's one of them.
Yeah, and this is the story of crypto so far. It's like, especially all these, I don't know, maybe there's a more proper term for them, but I call them like colluders. They're these people that want to buddy up with government regulators to try and give crypto the air of legitimacy that the normal banks get from being regulated and controlled by governments, which is silly. And so there's a lot of people, I don't know what the percentage split is, but there's a lot of people that resist that. They're like, no, the whole point of crypto is to be outside of these centralized monetary control institutions that we've had since the founding of the country, right? And this is another one of those instances. It's another wave crashing of like, look, you need to get away from these centrally regulatable institutions for multiple reasons: privacy, security, so that you don't lose. I'm assuming people have lost all their deposits at this point, right? Like,
yeah, at this time, people were still able to withdraw, but yeah, right now, like there's absolutely no withdrawals right now. So everything's frozen. Actually, well, for customers, but we can get into what's happened kind of just in the last few days as far as withdrawals happening that weren't customers because FTX got hacked, and it looks like it's maybe an inside job.
Yeah, and for a couple of years now, since Mt. Gox, honestly, how long ago was that now? It's been a while, but like since Mt. Gox,
that was 2013.
Yeah, so people have been saying, don't keep your crypto on these exchanges. Keep them in your own personal wallets that you have control over for this reason. Apparently, people don't listen. Why don't people listen? Well, okay, this is a weakness of cryptocurrency. Most people don't have the technological know-how, skill, or risk tolerance to manage their own crypto wallet. And so the technology itself lends itself to the normies trusting these centralized exchanges with their crypto. I wish there was an answer to that, but there literally isn't. The whole point, in my opinion, of crypto is to get away from these centralized control things, which just, it's sort of like I find myself telling people a lot more. Same thing with password security, password management. Like, if you're not using a password manager, you are being irresponsible in the modern era of technology. You are not doing like the level 1 hygienic stuff that you need to do in the modern era of technology to keep yourself secure and private, and to keep your accounts on all these different services you use private and secure. So crypto's the same way. It's just like, look, sorry guys, this is 2022. You don't keep your crypto on exchanges and you use password managers. This is basic level 1 stuff on the internet in this modern era. And you just got to bite the bullet, be a grown up, and take control, take ownership of your liabilities in these areas. That's what it is. Just like if you own a house in a big city with a high crime rate, it's on you. Lock your doors. Keep your bike chained up outside. Like, this is level 1 stuff. You just got to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And yeah, that's one thing that actually I like seeing last year during the bull run, that there was a lot more volume on decentralized exchanges, a lot more compared to the previous bull run. But still, people still trusted Binance, Coinbase, FTX, and that's where the majority of the assets were held. But hey, we're getting there, and that's another silver lining to this whole thing is that people are waking up to that fact again. But here we are, and I think this one obviously is going to have the most impact until the next one happens. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
So then, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say it's the same reason. Well, I'm going to repeat myself. So yeah, let's continue.
Okay. So then the next day, FTX bank run begins. Exchange addresses are starting to people are starting to notice that there's sluggish withdrawals. So one guy on Twitter said, get your funds out of FTX. This is financial advice. Rain Nooner, I think you say his name on Twitter. I think he's pretty well known. I might have met him actually. I forget. But reported data from him on November 7th showed that stablecoin outflows on FTX reached 451 million over 7 days, and users began to report sluggish withdrawals on FTX, with the exchange addressing the withdrawal complaints by assuring users everything was running smoothly. So I remember seeing these updates on Twitter on FTX's thing saying, don't worry, sorry, we're addressing, just a bug or whatever they said. And so they're trying to still instill confidence at that time. That same day, as the CEO, Sam Bankman, said that assets are fine and implores CZ, the Binance CEO, to come together. He was trying to, again, instill confidence in his exchange. Shortly after the exchange addressed user concerns, FTX CEO Sam Bankman fired off a series of tweets saying a competitor is trying to go after us with false rumors, talking about Binance, and adding that FTX is fine, assets are fine. He claimed the exchange has enough to cover all client holdings and that it doesn't invest client assets, and that it has been processing all withdrawals and will continue to be.
So he just straight up lied.
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Oh, he lied. Okay.
Yeah. And then Bankman said FTX had $1 billion in excess cash and called on Binance CEO CZ to work together for the ecosystem. That same day, CZ refused Alameda's over OTC deal to buy the tokens at $22. I mean, really, he should have went for it, right? Because it's at 136 right now. Oof. But and then he said, I think we will stay in the free market. So I guess, I don't know. I guess that's a +1 maybe is for his dignity, but minus a lot for his net worth, because that would have been a good trade on his part. And he said, I didn't say that, or wait, what was I didn't say it was a question.
If he took the trade, he'd probably be sued for fraud after the fact when all this came out.
He probably would have had to. He would have got rid of FTT. Actually, it probably would have been a good thing, because he would have got rid of FTT, sold it to Alameda. Then he would have had a lot of money. So if he even wanted to reimburse customers of FTX, he could have did that. But
I see.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So then the next day, November 8th, FTT price and crypto markets start to waver. So there's a significant, it started impacting the overall crypto market even more than just the bear market in general. And that's the day, we saw everything down. I think Bitcoin was down 10 to 20%. Ethereum was down 20%. It was pretty interesting. FTT price drove down 30%. It was still trading at $15, or sorry, it was at 20. It went from $22 to $15 in a matter of hours. And people were starting out to question
16,067 right now. Wow.
Yeah. And then, so that same day, FTX faces a liquidity crunch and moves to sell to Binance, and they were looking for other partners as well. But the CEO said on November 8th that it had come to an agreement on a strategic transaction with Binance for the exchange to help cover what he called a liquidity crunch. He added all assets will be covered one-to-one and cited this is the main reason FTX asked Binance to step in. Binance CEO said shortly after that Binance had signed a non-binding letter of intent to acquire the exchange, but noted that it reserved the right to pull out from the deal at any time. So yeah, there's only this, and he also said that it's all pending due diligence. So and then I guess on that same day, Sam Bankman removed the assets were fine tweet that he had posted just several days earlier.
Uh-oh.
It's like I mean, I guess you got to do what you got to do to cover your tracks if you're going to act like that. But it's the internet, so it lives on. And then I guess the FTX websites went dark. So a few hours after announcing the deal with Binance, FTX deleted the Twitter thread. And let's see here. Oh, the websites for FTX's venture capital arm, FTX Ventures and Alameda were all taken offline. While unconfirmed reports circulated that FTX's legal and compliance staff quit on November 8th. Reports on November 9th began to surface that Binance is possibly looking to back out of the agreement. So yeah, I saw that when that came through, and it was very shortly after. So I'm not even sure if they honestly had any time to do any due diligence, but yeah, it all happened very quickly. And then that's on November 9th, Binance officially made the announcement backing out of the agreement to acquire FTX. It was less than 48 hours. I think it was closer to like 24 hours. But their tweet was, as a result of corporate due diligence, as well as the latest news reports regarding mishandled customer funds and alleged U.S. agency investigations, we have decided that we will not pursue the potential acquisition. So then people are like, oh, because that was like, some form of hope for FTX investors and customers and everybody. When that happened, that was a pretty big sign. And then that was another day of big downs in the markets. Let's see here. I guess, Bitcoin hit a multi-year low of 15,600. That same day, lots happening here. Sam Bankman reportedly tells investors he needs $8 billion in emergency funding. So he called, and he also at the time too was saying that he had a bunch of other, once Binance jumped out of the deal, he said that he was talking to, he made it seem like obviously there was like a sea of other investors that were willing to jump in, or then they're talking to and they're looking at the deal. So yeah, $8 billion. It went from all assets are fine to $8 billion. We need $8 billion in emergency funding.
Yeah, we haven't invested any user funds, but everything's fine. But hey, can we get $8 billion?
Yep. And meanwhile, just less than a week earlier, his net worth was $16 billion, and I think around this time they were saying that his net worth went to about right under $1 billion, which is still too much. It's lower now, I'm assuming, but there's all sorts of unknown things that he may have invested in. Apparently, he was also investing in he bought, I think it was over $200 to $500 million worth of property in the Bahamas, because that's where they were headquartered out of. They had this this big mansion or high rise or whatever of a bunch of the FTX executives. Apparently there was some polyamorous or whatever. There's basically some orgies happening there that people are speculating as well. There's some weird stuff happening there, it seems. But November 9th, again, FTX website urges against depositing. They're still letting people deposit, but now at this time, withdrawals are getting sluggish. They have no signs. I checked FTX's website at the time, no banner or anything saying anything was happening, whatever. So I mean, honestly, most of their customers have no idea what's going on unless they're seeing it in mainstream headlines, which is starting to pick up. But it still wasn't covered that much. So
they're not sending out emails and warning their customers like a reputable, trustworthy company would do, right? Okay.
Right. Yeah. As far as I know, I don't think any emails went out, but definitely there was no banners or any type of signals on the front page of the website. And so it took them till this time, November 9th, to urge against depositing and that withdrawals are going to be turned off. So yeah. And then also, I guess the warning was also pinned on their official Telegram. So how nice of them.
So it's over. I mean, so
let's
it's kind of
see.
over now, right? Or is there more?
No, there's more.
Oh,
We can-
okay.
I mean, we're on November 9th. So November 10th, Sequoia Capital, which is a VC, one of the top VC firms in the world, came out and said that their $214 million FTX deal, they are actually marking it down to zero, which was pretty actually interesting that they did that so quickly, because we didn't have all the answers right now, but they put out an investor memo stating that. And that's also, it only accounts for a small amount of their overall fund, I guess. But they did come out with that. Then that same day, Sam Bankman apologized over XTX liquidity crisis. This is the first time that he apologized. I think he's only apologized really twice. But he said I fucked up and that I'm sorry. So at that time too, people were, most people were pissed off at him, but there were some big VCs that said, hey, good for him for being transparent and owning this and this and that, but they didn't have the full story yet. That same day, November 10th, Japan's financial regulator requests FTX Japan halt operations. So I guess they were closed down as far as their banking relationships then. November 10th, blockchain data suggests that FTX may have resumed withdrawals. So there were some people that were starting to get withdrawals. Let me see if this thing covers the Tron stuff coming out. No, actually it doesn't. So okay, so this is actually kind of interesting. This isn't covered in this article that I have up, but when withdrawals were starting to they said that they were being blocked, the founder of Tron, Justin Sun, said that he was going to basically back any of the Tron and Tron tokens that were on FTX and work with FTX to get customers their Tron assets. It sounds nice on the on the surface level, but what I think he was doing is they were basically allowing people to withdraw Tron. So therefore, all of the people were basically mass selling their every other asset they have and got into Tron and Tron tokens on the idea that eventually they would be able to withdraw. But so people were basically selling their portfolio at 5 to 10% of the value just to get something out of FTX. So I think this was honestly, and Justin Sun of Tron is, if you look into his history, there's definitely a bunch of scammy stuff there. So I believe that this is almost like a money-making scheme. There's a lot of people that were making a lot of money that were still able to withdraw their assets off of FTX, and so people that weren't able to, they were selling their portfolios for pennies on the dollar. At the same time, they announced, I guess the Bahama regulators got into this, and they allowed people with Bahama credentials or that were KYC'd with Bahama IDs to get their funds out, and so that same thing was happening. I saw tweets of multiple crypto whales that were trying to get their assets off of FTX, and they were selling again their portfolios for pennies on the dollar. There's also a lot of ID fraud, people buying or using other people's accounts, or even potentially buying Bahama IDs or faking IDs just so they can get their assets off. So that was interesting to witness as well. November 10th, Maxine Waters, our favorite, warns of major consequences for users of unregulated crypto firms, citing FTX. And this was kind of interesting. The Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, he kind of replied to, I think it was Elizabeth Warren and Maxine Waters and all this, and said hey, this is actually your fault because of the crypto regulations. There's so much there's not clarity in the U.S. markets, or they're so draconian that people are having to move offshore to do anything in crypto. So he made that argument at least against these regulators.
There's a couple more details that are worth teasing out in here. So I don't see, and I don't have numbers to back this up, but I don't know that a bunch of people are holding a lot of their currency in the DEXs, the distributed exchanges, which means there is no, for those that don't know, distributed exchanges is usually like a blockchain-based entity that isn't an actual corporation subject to regulation. It's just a piece of technology that runs out there on the internet with everyone that connects to it and participates with it to do a lot of the same functions that you get on a centralized exchange like Coinbase or FTX or Binance, except that there's no central entity. It's just code that's out there, and the code is almost always, I think I can say it's always open source so that everybody can see the code and read exactly what's being executed. And people, I think, Nat, for some reason, trust those less than the centralized exchanges, so they don't store a lot of their currency long-term on the DEXs, which is kind of backwards to me, because it's the centralized exchanges where you have these motives at work, where you have the CEO that wants to prop up his hedge fund with money, and you get these collusions and these people running away with the money. It's almost like well, there's two more points I want to make. One of the points I want to make is, first of all, if you think that this only happens in crypto and not in normal fiat banking, you're obviously wrong. It's just that the fiat bankers usually have government collusion involved, so they get away with it and you don't hear about it. And you can certainly have runs on the bank, and and we know, because they admit it, because it's legal, that they do this shit where there's this what is it called? The name is escaping me. Where they
Ponzi?
They invest more multiples of the money that they receive in deposits.
Leverage. Use leverage.
Yeah, but there's a name for it. Fractional reserve banking. Thank you. Yeah, they admit to doing that. So it's like it's not that the fiat is better or safer. It's actually that it's worse, and they admit it. It's just that it's normalized. That's the first point I want to make. Go ahead.
And just to compare, this, potentially 8+, let's just say, I would say maybe $8 to $25 billion. Bernie Madoff was, I think it was like $64 billion. So, and then, we have the 2008 financial crisis, and we always, we know what the Fed does. So yeah, it's, it's small in terms of like, of the traditional finance, but there's a lot to learn. And definitely with the decentralized exchanges, especially the more trusted one, I do believe that, they're going to, like I said, during the last year, they were actually matching some days, like Uniswap was matching volume of like Coinbase. So we are starting to get there, but still a lot more people need to wake up and realize like, hey, not your keys, not your coins.
Yeah. And so then the question I want to put out there is, and I want to hear from the commenters as well as you, King. It's like, how long until we have a Binance scandal and a Coinbase scandal? Because eventually, like, these large centralized interests are going to go the exact same directions. How could they? I don't see it not happening, right? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely a possibility. Coinbase, they work very closely with the regulators. Apparently, they say that they have one-to-one backing. They're also a public company, so they're supposed to be disclosing all their financial reports. Everything's kind of seen there. Like Coinbase
was the first exchange to like rapidly run after the regulators to kiss the ring, and that was one of the first big red flags of Coinbase for me years ago. I got out as much as I could.
Absolutely. I've had 2 Coinbase accounts closed in 2015, and I was a big proponent of Coinbase and what they're doing, because they were just making Bitcoin easy to buy. So I was like, okay. I remember even like I was in Canada at the time, and I used to go to the Toronto Bitcoin meetups, and I would buy because they couldn't have a Coinbase account, so I would literally buy on Coinbase and sell them OTC Bitcoin for spot price. I didn't even charge any percentage. And so I really liked what they did. They actually approached my esports company because they were interested in us utilizing their API for making Coinbase accounts hook up to our esports platform. And then all of a sudden, eventually, like in the middle of that year, they approached us for that. And then we were working with their team. Then all of a sudden, I got 2 emails saying that both our business account and my personal one was taken down. I was able to withdraw my crypto off there, but since then I've been pissed off at Coinbase. But for some reason, I just want to say one more thing about Coinbase. After kind of researching more of Brian Armstrong and listening to him, and I understand he is working with the government and all this, but I kind of feel like he's just doing what he has to do, and I really do believe that he believes in freedom and he's just having to take a lot of arrows and having to kind of try to do it the right way in the world that we currently live in to make people to make an easy way for people to get into crypto. For some reason, I believe, I really do kind of believe in their mission, which is, and I understand everybody's kind of drawback with Coinbase, obviously, as I can't even access it myself. But their mission is to increase economic freedom in the world. And again, just listening to a bunch of Brian Armstrong speeches and stuff like that, sometimes you gotta figure. Everyone has to kind of figure it out, themselves, and they're taking a different approach that I would. But anyway,
and that's in all things. That's in all things. That's in sort of the libertarian activism and everything. There's tons of activists out there, especially in the political circles, that are getting the word out about libertarian principle in ways that I find disgusting. And, you can still talk to those people. You can still even work with some of them to a certain degree. So, if Coinbase gets the normies into crypto on the books, then maybe that will help them, see the light one day. And
right, that's what I think their focus is. That's all I'm saying. Exactly, the normies.
I think that's fair.
So So November 10th, CZ Binance CEO speaks with El Salvador's president, confirming the country had no exposure to FTX. That same day, a Republican lawmaker claims SEC Chair Gary Gensler was coordinating with FTX to obtain regulatory monopoly. This is kind of where there's a lot of conspiracy theories going around. But FTX was also pushing regulations, but they weren't pushing regulations necessarily on centralized exchanges so much, but they were actually trying to target DeFi, which DeFi is for these decentralized exchanges, decentralized finance. So in a November 10th tweets, I guess Congressman or something, Emmer criticized Gensler for running to the media amid FTX's liquidity issue. SEC chairman made some sort of stupid statement, causing ripples throughout the crypto market. According to the Republican lawmaker, his team was looking into the SEC chair's alleged collaboration with Sam Bankman and FTX. The FTX was meeting. There's a picture of actually Sam Bankman with Maxine Waters, and I think the SEC chairman. They looked at him like he was our guy in crypto. A lot of people are speculating that Sam Bankman may even have been an op himself or a Fed. And that FTX was just set up to move funds from people to the Democratic Party. Ukraine had some sort of partnership with FTX to accept donations. So people are saying that maybe money shifted from the federal government to Ukraine to FTX to the Democratic Party. There's a whole bunch of kind of things that will be shown in the light eventually. But there was definitely close ties with current SEC chairman and FTX, both with and Alameda.
And it bears pointing out that the SEC has been spending the last couple of years on millions of dollars harassing the shit out of Library for doing nothing, while this stuff was getting set up to happen.
Exactly.
And it just goes back to my mantra. It seems like I say this so many times on the show lately. You are not protected by these people that say that they're there to protect you. They make your life harder. They are usually the biggest vulnerability that you have to your safety, security, and privacy in both physical and financial areas. They are almost wholly the bad guys in everything that they touch. They're going to harass Library. I was just going to say they're going to harass the shit out of Library. Put one of the most important crypto companies on the map at risk that has done nothing wrong. And they're going to, like you said, buddy with the CEO of a guy that looks like he's running away with billions. So
yeah. So, nothing new, same old day as far as government's concerned. And even just by their mere existence, they, for normies, they shed this this shield or armor or sense of safety nets when it comes to these types of anything in really finance. It's FDIC insured, blah blah. So it's all bullshit. So that same day, November 10th, FTX US, FTX.com was actually their like international unit. They had another platform for US citizens called FTX.US. So at this time, all this is going on, but actually US people are still able to apparently trade and even withdraw at this time. But they ended up resigning from the Crypto Council for Innovation, which I think was some sort of self-regulatory organization that worked with the government and was, bullshit. That same day, FTX US announces it may halt trading on its platform in a few days. The announcement, let's see, according to the banner at the top of FTX US, trading may be halted on FTX US in a few days. Urge exchange users to please close down any positions. Withdrawals are and will remain open. Fast forward, I think 24 hours, the withdrawals are turned off.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That same day, FTX assets were frozen by the Bahamian securities regulators. So this is when all the Bahama stuff was going on. Bahama-based FTX account withdrawals millions of funds for other users using. They were selling, basically people were selling NFTs for basically portfolios or something like that. It was pretty crazy. California regulators to investigate FTX crypto exchange collapse November 11th. Who really cares? What are they going to do? Rumors around the arrest of FTX CEO Sam Bankman fuel community reaction. So there's a bunch of talk of that. Obviously, people are still, a lot of people now, like there's this guy on Twitter or YouTube, BitBoy or something. He's a very popular crypto YouTuber. I don't listen to him, but he grew to fame last year, especially. And he was like basically acting like, he said, I guess, that he warned people. And he was basically trying to like hire bounty hunters or whatever to find Sam Bankman. So a lot of weird drama going on. He was like, anybody who has his coordinates, send me his coordinates, and we'll drop someone down.
Okay.
FTX institutional head resigned on November 11th, just a day after the exchange's fallout. I believe also like their legal team. I think I mentioned that they had resigned. FTX has liabilities roughly worth $8 billion. I guess it was confirmed by Zane Tackett that day. I'm trying to find what else is good here. Then that same day, so November 11th, remember, we've only gone through, what do we start? Like really, even when Sam Bankman made an announcement, assets were fine. This was like 3 to 5 days ago. So November 11th. FTX US and Alameda will file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. That day before, Sam Bankman had tweeted that
everything was fine.
Multiple conversations. Everything, not everything was fine. I fucked up. I'm
There's
sorry.
There's a pattern here,
but we're talking to a bunch of people. A lot of people are interested. Hey, we're going to do what we have to do. I'm sorry, I fucked up again. But there's people that are interested and gonna fill this hole basically for us. So next day, and Sam Bankman hasn't tweeted. I think maybe his last tweet was like the 10th or something like that. But the next day, there's like a list of 144 Sam Bankman's companies that were I guess it says roughly 130 that were that filed for Chapter 11, and he also resigned. So he resigned. And the person they put in place was the same CEO from Enron when the CEO of Enron resigned. So, which I guess kind of makes sense because, I'm not sure what happened with Enron after the falling out, but maybe this guy is good at figuring out after the house is burned down what to do next. I don't know. I haven't looked into it that much, but it was kind of interesting, at least as far as the personalities that are in play. With this being the Enron CEO is now the CEO of FTX after the shit hits the fan.
Interesting.
And then I'll just share this tweet. Of course, I think this was like one of his last ones. I'm really sorry again that we ended up here. Hopefully things can find a way to recover. Hopefully this can bring some amount of transparency, trust, and governance to them. Ultimately, hopefully it can be better for customers. So obviously it's not. FTX US, remember the day before, FTX US said that everything's fine. The next day, FTX US suspends withdrawals and FTX Ventures head resigns. Then there's some. So then November 12th, yesterday. So no one can withdraw. Everything's on fire. But there's people are still able to track that there's some assets that are associated with FTX accounts from the FTX platform from the blockchain. So then all of a sudden people started noticing that there was hundreds of millions of dollars that were being taken from the FTX platform, even though people weren't apparently able to withdraw. There was then the FTX Twitter, the FTX, not their Twitter. I don't think they updated their Twitter yet, but their Telegram put a message saying that we've been hacked. I guess the first transaction was worth over $105 million let's see. Or maybe there was multiple transactions, but the first chunk was like $105 million. Now they're saying that it's over $600 million, or I think it's confirmed that it's been over $600 million. And a lot of like the transactions, or however they're getting away with this, it says like, fuck SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, or something like this. So like an attack on Sam Bankman personally. So a lot of people are just speculating that it's Sam Bankman and Caroline or whoever, insiders of FTX, top executives or people that had access, that are basically trying to run away with the remaining funds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So this started happening like yesterday or the day before. So now, and then there's just been more and more. It started with, I guess around 100 million, and now it's gone up to over 600 million.
This is a whole new rabbit hole in progress now. I thought the story was almost over, but we're just getting started. Okay.
Yeah. So then it became, okay, this exchange is going under, to, that there's been commingled assets and blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, okay, now this is just like a straight heist going on. And then November 12th.
Opie in chat says Caroline is so hot. Is there a joke? Am I missing a joke? What's the joke?
I mean, she's not the most attractive woman, in the world. She also, like, there's been some interviews where she says, this is supposed to be like the top quantitative crypto hedge fund in the world. And she, in this one interview, she talks about how, like, they're like, oh, so you must do like a lot of like complicated math and this and that. She's like, no, not really. It's pretty basic. And then they like ask her, they like, we don't really do that much like complicated math. Because basically, I mean, really, I don't know how you, like, if you own an exchange and a hedge fund and they're able to like front run everybody, all the customer orders. I mean, that's free money for the hedge fund. So the fact that they got into this whole mess is pretty crazy. But they confirmed when they confirmed the hack, FTX, Tether, and this is a good thing for people to wake up to as well. But also, I feel that is actually like a needed feature potentially of crypto, but it's up to debate. But Tether actually, because I guess a lot of the funds were being moved with Tether, they actually blacklisted the FTX's addresses. So FTX, they blacklisted $31 million worth of USDT. And at this time, there was like 477 million to be that was suspected of being stolen. Now today, this is missing a bunch of things in this headline grab, but I guess today a lot of people are speculating that SBF was under. Apparently, he is under the supervision of the Bahama authorities.
Suicide watch? Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
yeah, probably. I mean, it seems. I mean, this guy's still got to have a lot of. I'm sure he still has a lot of funds that are available. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if he's able to escape, if he's able to pay some people off. There's been speculation that they're trying to make it to Dubai. I'm not sure. I think they have like debtors prison in Dubai, so I'm not sure how great that would be for him. But maybe he
was a Biden donor. If I think you said he was a big Biden donor in the beginning, so he's probably going to be.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah, it was $5 million. I think he was the number 2 like single voter Biden donor.
Oh, well, there you go. All right, so everybody get your questions in. Last call for questions. I've got a couple here. Let's start with Inviting Freedom. Question to King. Any thoughts on Hex? So you just chuckled, and I don't know why. So fill me in on why you chuckled. What's going on?
So, okay, it's funny because the Hex community is just all over the internet and crypto, and you
really?
respect them for that. Yeah. So
is
Hex
this
was
just like
started by-
is this just like a pump thing where we're trying to get to shout out Hex? Is that what this is?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like it doesn't really have to do, and whatever. Do your own research regarding Hex. I think there, yeah, it doesn't really have to do with the conversation. So I don't know if we should even touch on it. Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Also said SEC is going after crypto influencers left and right on YouTube. I haven't heard that either. That's interesting. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I guess they went after Kim Kardashian and Floyd Mayweather. Although I believe that if I remember correctly, I'm gonna look it up real quick, but I think that that they ended up like maybe appealing and actually not getting fined. But they but yeah, there's some talk, some people starting to get some notices from I forget what regulator. Maybe it's the SEC, but
Inviting says SBF had a back door built into FTX's accounting system, which is what you were talking about, I think, at the beginning,
right,
allowing him to alter the company's financials without alerting executives and auditors. Wow, he'd be going to prison if he hadn't donated all that money to Biden.
Yeah, and a lot of like top executives are saying that, or maybe top employees. They said that like it started getting worse and worse as far as the visibility of some of the financial irregularities in their accounting system. So then it like kind of moved to like the top echelon as far as the C-suite, if you will, of the company that kind of was maybe in on all of this.
Inviting says no, wasn't trying to, I guess, pump Hex at all. She's genuinely curious if you have any thoughts on it. So you can talk about it if you want or not. We can move on.
Okay. Yeah, I will say, so one interesting thing about, I'll just say like with Richard Hart is that he's definitely a person that comes off for most people like, I don't want anything to do with this. But if you look into a lot of what he says, the actual stuff about crypto, not that like he's always right. He likes to brag a lot about himself and how much money he has, but good for him. But there's Hex. It went from low to high, and Richard Hart. He said some good things. He's made me question proof of work, and now actually I would say because of like his thoughts and my research that I understand where he's coming from, and I kind of see the points, and I think that proof of work may be just kind of a waste compared to proof of stake. But yeah, Hex itself, I'm not really sure. I mean, it's another crypto. It's another crypto out there.
Moose asks, he says, question or thought. People say crypto is backed by nothing, but then have faith in, say, the dollar or debt-based structures used in the U.S.
Right.
That's that's not really a question. That's just a good point, probably.
Yeah. And I think, that's why, like, it's all subjective, and there really isn't really like intrinsic value. Intrinsic value isn't really a thing. So if people believe in something, and there's a community behind it, and they're using it to trade, or it can have value behind it. So that's why actually it's interesting to see what will happen with Bitcoin and Dogecoin with Elon taking over Twitter, because that if they start adding some features for people to send and receive, I think that's that's pretty powerful, and I think that could be a good thing for my goal of ending the Fed. Ultimately, why I got into crypto.
Do you hold any sort of conspiracy related thoughts about this whole FTX thing? So Julian makes a good point in the chat here. He says FTX is a basic fraud. That's all, or do you think it's a well planned crypto Trojan horse to take down, to basically give the government the excuse it's been, waiting with bated breath to crack down on crypto and regulate the shit out of it?
Yeah. That's what I mentioned. There is speculation of that. Do I believe that? I mean, it seems like a lot of conspiracies are coming true that we believed all throughout the years. And I think that the Fed is the biggest conspiracy. So I just definitely wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Sam and the FTX team were working very closely with the SEC. As I mentioned, Carolyn, his girlfriend's father, was apparently the boss of Gary Gensler. back in the day, and it just became, especially with the mainstream media pushing FTX and Sam Bankman to the forefront of like everything, and then all this money moving into FTX. I mean, this guy, he was bailing out other crypto exchanges. He was bailing out, FTX was going to bail out BlockFi. They were going to bail out a bunch of ones. And so, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I would not be surprised at all. Which I'm.
Go ahead. No, I thought you were.
I was going to say, like, I am pretty much. I was just say, like, I'm not surprised with a bunch of conspiracies that come true anymore. It's just kind of like, oh, yeah, it figures.
My default position is always, I don't believe things without evidence. I think King just listed off quite a list of, connections that would provide at least some evidence for some kind of conspiracy like that. But also, like, I think a good null hypothesis is just that the government, like the government can just wait until something legitimate does happen that does harm people, which is always going to happen in any industry. There's always going to be drama. There's always going to be a bad actor that harms somebody or defrauds somebody. And the government can just sit by and bide its time until something like this happens, even if it doesn't have to induce this situation. It can just, now that it's happened, it can say, oh, this is why you need us, right? You need to give us more power so that we can protect you. So whether or not go ahead.
So I was going to say, or they can add fuel to the fire.
Yeah, exactly. So whether or not they induced it is almost immaterial at this point. They have the excuse that they need. So yeah, and there's, this is what I keep saying, that there's obviously like a war on crypto, and now more and more every year they're starting to recognize that it is a competitor against the U.S. dollar and other fiat currencies. And now, this may be a reason to usher in this CBDC tyrannical, they call it crypto, but it's not really crypto. It's just really the government basically, completely controlling the cash that you may hold and may only be able to utilize for the future as far as transactions. And yeah, it's scary. I mean, that's the thing. It's like technology, right? It can be used for good or evil. I always say this. And so with the CBDC, it's very scary what may be coming down the road and what it's already being implemented in other countries. I guess China rolled out their CBDC. Other countries are, and it's not going to be good if we allow that to happen here. Absolutely. Okay. Let's just do like a quick rapid fire. Let's get our recommendations from our expert here, and I'll give mine too for what they're worth. What do you think the biggest risk to cryptocurrency as a technology is right now?
Oh, governments, people with guns, violent people with guns.
You stole mine. Okay, so I'll come up with a different one. The biggest risk I see that isn't the government is quantum computing, being able to screw up the ability to ensure the blockchain's verification process. So you could forge transactions, which is going to be a big problem that I don't hear enough people talking about. And I don't think it's like a 20 years in the future problem. I think it's a 5 years ago problem. I think the tech and the capability and the actual devices already exist to do this stuff. And the people with resources, and there's a large list of them now, can already probably do some of this stuff. So
really, you think so? Oh, because I feel like they would have already manipulated the crypto markets if they would do that.
Well, if they did, how would we know? Unless they were dumb about it. Like if they were dumb and made it obvious, then they'd get caught. But I mean, they could do little things like before anybody knows that the tech is functional, they could entrap people. They could plant evidence in the form of cryptocurrency transactions on people. Like little things that people wouldn't necessarily notice as fraudulent or wouldn't be able to prove were fraudulent. I think that's where it'll start.
I guess maybe the smartest thing that they could do is maybe like manipulate, because I mean I feel like if it was too big of like what they were doing, obviously it would be able to be seen on the blockchain, but maybe they're even like able to manipulate like transaction fees or something and kind of pull like what was that movie Office Space, like take a sub penny of every transaction or something like that.
Maybe so I would just like to see more of them talking about making quantum resistant blockchain verifications for proof of work, stuff like that.
There are some, like I think that IOTA, when it first launched, was said that it uses a different type of it's not like a blockchain. What's it called again? Try to pull it up. But there are quite a few. I mean, I even like as early as 2013, 2014, I remember speaking with some people that were working on some technology. But the thing is, it's kind of theoretical at this point because, as far as like, normies know about what quantum computing is, there's not much out there still. But yeah, it's definitely an interesting subject to a deep dive in.
The first time you hear about it is when somebody discovers that it happened to them, and I think that's always gonna come sooner than you think. That's how it's always been with vulnerabilities in tech. It's just how it goes. Okay, so 5 more questions. If you had to make a recommendation, what is the best way a person can buy crypto with fiat?
I mean, I would, even though Coinbase has shut down my account, I would say Coinbase, but or Kraken. I really like the Kraken CEO is, I think, a really good guy. He actually took myself and Kevin, our co-founder, out in 2015. Because he was interested in gaming. He's kind of a nerd himself, and he's he seems like probably there's him. I still like Roger Ver. I know he's had some mistakes, and Eric Voorhees, that I still kind of like trust in the community. I feel like they're the most, anarchist, voluntarist, libertarian minded. They're not, I wouldn't say any of them are perfect, maybe, but they are. They seem like really stand up guys. So yeah, I would say probably Coinbase or Kraken.
And both of those would. Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry. But always, the best thing to do is actually, maybe go to a crypto meetup or a Bitcoin meetup locally, maybe buy some with cash. That's always the best. There's no KYC, whatever. You do have to be careful, I guess, in terms of maybe feds infiltrating that too and trying to sell you over like 10,000 or whatever. But and just, always make sure, again, this is a lesson of crypto time and time again. You can use these centralized exchanges as far as linking your bank account and buying the crypto. But as soon as that trade, is done, get your money off and move it to either just another trusted wallet or a cold storage.
Yep. So if you want to buy it on the books, then probably Coinbase or Kraken. His recommendations are good. Off the books, I definitely haven't used this, so I'm just guessing. Let's say I lost my transaction log in a boating accident. But BISC does work. It is functional, and you can do that without any centralized exchange. It definitely feels a little shady, but I suspect, I wouldn't know, but you can perform those trades. Okay, next question. Best way to swap cryptos. So like if you have some crypto and you want to swap it for a different crypto, what's your favorite right now?
1inch or Uniswap are typically like the easiest to use. There's a bunch out there though. I mean, just go through the list. If you can just check out the list of the different decentralized exchanges. Shapeshift is still out there. I haven't used actually Shapeshift in a while, but I know that they've kind of decentralized and now are all focused on DeFi. And that was founded by Eric Voorhees, who again I trust. So I would
suggest not using.
I don't know. I would just be wary of maybe some of the smaller guys, and apparently Thorchain is pretty good too. I think Eric Voorhees is kind of more focused on that now that Shapeshift turned into a DAO. But apparently Thorchain is really interesting. I need to look back into Thorchain because I was like really excited about it. But they do like even like cross swaps against from one blockchain to another. So I definitely recommend checking that out. But again, like the thing with DeFi or DEXs, decentralized exchanges, is that there have been quite a few hacks, especially on some of the smaller ones, the less reputable ones that haven't been around for a while. So you still have to be careful, even though maybe someone can't. Maybe the company executives don't know how to take your money off those accounts yet, or if they want to. But you do have to be careful in terms of like the code underlying it, because there could be a way for hackers to take your funds. So just look into it, look into the people, the team, and see. Hopefully they've been around for at least a while. So any of those potential vulnerabilities could have been found by now.
So in terms of DEXs, what's your favorite DEX?
I mean, I've really only used Uniswap and 1inch, but again, I would recommend people check out check out Thorchain.
Thorchain. Okay,
That's
cool.
Yeah.
And finally, I saved the question for last. What's your favorite crypto? Which is the one that you would put your bag in right now?
I think right now it makes a lot of sense as far as, like I said, I think that in the future there is need for public blockchains, public transactions, but I think for the most day-to-day type of activities, it should be private. There's no reason that, when I go buy a coffee or a bag of chips or whatever else, or send money to a family or friend, that it should be displayed publicly. There's really no reason for that. So I would say, Monero, I've always been a fan of. And then Zcash, I haven't been as much of a fan of, but I'm kind of looking into more now that all this stuff is going on and people are talking about privacy coins and blockchains. And let's see, what other one is there? Dash too, I think is kind of interesting in terms of, because I believe it can be same with Zcash, public or private. What
happened to Pirate Chain?
Yeah, a lot of people like Pirate Chain too. It's still around as far as I know. They have a great community, very voluntarist type of community. There's also like Mimblewimble protocol. I don't know. That was one big thing that I didn't like, as in terms of the different crypto communities, as what they were talking about and what was getting really popular. No one was talking about privacy throughout the last 2 years, in my opinion. So I think that's going to definitely be a big topic going forward, as more people woke up to this whole FTX thing and are tracking all these transactions everywhere.
Yeah. Well, if I owned any crypto, my favorite would be Monero, but I wouldn't know. So
yeah, absolutely.
Those are my thoughts. All right, guys. King, I'll give it to you. Any last words? You want to send people to your socials or whatever you'd like?
No, I'm on Float, joinfloat.com. I'm king on there. I have been using Twitter a bit more since Elon took over, trying to learn the ins and the outs. And that's obviously where a lot of this drama occurred in real time on crypto Twitter. So I'm KRH Edwards on basically all my other socials. But yeah, please, people, let's learn from the mistakes of the past and move on. And also, let's support projects or companies that are doing good things in the space, or people that are doing good things in the space, because I truly believe that it's the future of money, and we all need to have a voice in that, and choose correctly and get these bad actors out of here, because I'm sick of them.
All right.
There's more to come. There may be other exchanges that are going to be having issues. There was one other thing I wanted to mention. Apparently, this is kind of conspiracy, but maybe not. There is some evidence of this, but now people are starting to request proof of reserves of these centralized exchanges like Crypto.com and others. And so there are companies that are building these platforms to try to make things that seem like that they have the reserve backups that they need. But FTX invested in a bunch of different companies and exchanges. And there's also been evidence recently of some exchanges potentially sending or borrowing from other exchanges to show their proof of reserves when they potentially might not have it. So there could be some still collusion going on with centralized exchanges. So get your money out.
There's going to be more fallout from this one for sure. And this is not going to be the last time this happens. I think those are two really easy predictions to make. So have your own wallets.
Absolutely.
And guys, spend time helping your family and friends with this stuff. If you understand it, if you know how wallets work and how to buy crypto, help them out. Help them walk them through it. Try and make it not as scary. That's how we promote the technology. Make it easier and make it friendly. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks, King. I appreciate you doing the work of walking us through that whole timeline, and we made some good points in there. So thanks for coming on.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Fun. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for watching. Thanks for your questions. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.